Welcome to the Jeremy and Andy Talk Movies podcast. I am Jeremy.
I am Andy.
And Andy, we're going to talk about a movie today that really begs the question, just how important is the city of Chicago?
Indeed, it does. It really asks that question, doesn't it?
So today we are talking about the new movie on Netflix, A House of Dynamite. This is a movie directed by Catherine Bigelow, who is a really accomplished and celebrated director
Yeah.
who I think hasn't directed anything in a little while. So this was kind of
Yeah, I
a
don't know
big
where
deal.
she's been.
Yeah, kind of a big deal for her to have a new release. And as typical with these straight to streaming movies, it's like I knew this movie was coming, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh shoot, I see something about it. It's out now, and I didn't even realize. And then
They sneak
you
up on us, don't
yeah,
they?
you scramble to catch it because you're like, I guess I'll go watch it. But once again, a movie that I really wish I could have seen in a theater, but
Hmm. I
this is
know.
this is the hand we're dealt. We got to watch this movie on Netflix.
Still don't like it. I still want all these movies to be released in theaters.
Yeah. But I am going to give a summary of this movie, and then we will talk a little bit about what we think about this movie. So, when a projectile is discovered to have launched from somewhere in the Pacific, members of all different branches of the U.S. government begin to frantic work of trying to figure out what it is, where it's from, where exactly it's headed, if they can stop it, and what to do if they can't. And as they scramble to get and process this information, the clock continues to tick, and the tensions continue to build as everyone ponders whether this is the spark that will ignite a house of dynamite. Andy,
Yeah,
was a house of dynamite good?
I think so. I'm not. I'm gonna have a hard time being overly enthusiastic about this movie. Bigelow does a thing, and she did it with why is it
Zero Dark
escaping me?
30?
Zero Dark 30. Her movies feel very kind of prestige. They feel very like researched. Like she really takes the time and tries to get this stuff correct and accurate. Whether it is or not, I honestly don't know. I'm not well educated enough to know. Um, and they feel very considered, and they feel all these things that I like. So maybe the right answer is that I think I respect the movie more than I love the movie. I don't know if that makes any sense or not. I respect the craft. I respect the effort that she puts into making these movies have like a real feel to them. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
No, I think you're right. I think most people, including myself, have a little bit of like kind of an uncertain reaction to this movie, where exactly what
Hmm.
you're saying. Really good craft. There's certainly a
Hmm.
propulsiveness to this movie that kept me locked in the whole time.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's a strange movie, and one thing we need to talk about is the structure.
Yeah,
So
you
this
can't
movie,
not talk about it.
yeah, this movie's told in three parts, uh, and it was interesting because it's so propulsive, and you're building to this projectile, this missile, getting closer and closer, and the information coming clearer and clearer. And it's heading for Chicago, and all the stuff they're trying to figure out. And as the countdown's happening, it's getting really close. And I was watching this with my brother, and he's kind of like, so it's like, how are they going to have an hour of movie left if it's about to hit? And I'm like, I guess just all the fallout. But then as it's about to hit, it like
Reset.
fade to black, hard reset, yeah, and then you like starts telling it, and you start realizing like there's little background characters, like people you see on screen and stuff in the first part of the movie that start to be like the people they're following, and you're like, oh, we're gonna see this from their perspective now.
Yeah.
It's a little bit, it's a strange movie to connect because it's only like alike in this way. It's a little bit like Weapons, in
Weapons.
that when it does the reset each time, I'm kind of like, I wanted to just keep going. I don't want to see reset. But then after a little bit, I started getting caught up in the new perspective. So,
Yeah.
um, you know, uh, the the structure didn't bother me really as much once I would get into it, as much as it makes it a hard movie to think like, would I ever rewatch this movie? I think that's sort of the weird thing I'm struggling with. Like, it's good, but like, it's kind of a one time experience movie.
I couldn't agree with you more. And that was really one of my biggest takeaways. I finished this movie and I was like, I'm not sure that I will ever watch this movie again for the rest of my life, which is funny because that is exactly the reaction I had to Zero Dark 30.
Mm. Yeah, that is interesting. Uh, I think it's for me. I think I'll ultimately enjoy this movie more because I love a good discussion movie, and I think this movie
Yeah,
can contribute to a lot of good discussion. There's if I do watch this again, my thought was there's some friends that I have that I would want to have the discussions with. I could see like sitting down saying, "Hey, we need to watch this movie so that then we can discuss maybe somewhat."
sure.
But that's about the only environment where I really see myself watching it. It's not gonna be the movie where I'm like, "Oh, you know what I haven't watched in a while and I need to throw on House of Dynamite." Uh,
Yeah, it's funny because it's not like a fun hang really. Um,
no,
it's pretty dark subject matter and everything, but like you can admire the performances. It's got our girl from the later Mission Impossible movies, Rebecca Ferguson, in it, and the way Bigelow does these movies, they do just kind of lend themselves. Like she does get good performances from people.
yeah, there's definitely good performances, and it's a loaded cast. Of course, it's one of those
It is a
movies
loaded
where
cast.
does anybody have to be on set for more than like 2 days to film their particular part? So when it's like that, you can
Hmm.
get more people in it. But yeah, it's populated with all sorts of people who I would say are overqualified for
Yeah.
roles the size that they are in this movie.
Yep. And maybe that plays into it too, where that can almost be a little bit of a distraction, where you have these pretty big stars doing these kind of just bit parts almost.
Yeah, and it's almost they almost do like some of the bigger names. Like Idris Elba plays the president in the movie, and you don't know that until the last act of the movie when they reset for the
Yeah.
final time. And the way that they like, even when he's in these like teleconferences, he's always just in a black screen, so you don't see it. It's like was it meant to be like a kind of a reveal, or were they just like saving it? I don't know. It's just interesting
I don't
how that was done, but I pulled up something on IMDb to see who an actor was from something else that I kind of recognized, one of the bit players. I was like, who is that? And I finally looked it up. And when I pulled up on IMDb, I see the first name is Idris Elba, and we're halfway through the movie, and I'm like, I haven't even seen
what?
him yet. And then
Yeah.
I once I knew he was in it, I recognized the voice as of him as the president, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
he's the president in this movie.
He
Um,
is.
yeah, and always does a good job. Although not sure why we're casting British guys as our American presidents, but whatever.
I'm not sure either, and he is good, but I gotta say, to me, he was the weak link. His character was the weak link of the movie.
Mm. Yeah, I think they always feels like they do weird things trying to make presidents look like they're I don't know doing things. So like he goes to the whole like Angel Reese basketball thing to speak to these kids, and it's like you didn't need that. You didn't
That
need
was
like
a
a
really odd scene.
yeah. It felt like weird stunt casting to have Angel Reese in it, and you're like, Angel Reese is the at best fifth most famous person in this movie, and so having her as like a stunt cameo in this very self-serious movie just felt very out of place.
That whole sequence, I knew we would get into this at some point. We might as well just do it now. That whole sequence really just did not work at all for me. It was really a distraction almost to me. That was just a really strange, out of place sequence that felt like it was just coming out of a completely different movie.
Yeah. Um, so that this is I'm going to go ahead and say this. Spoiler warning for this movie because it's a hard movie to get into at all without talking
Yeah.
about like the most critical elements of it. It's also a hard movie to talk through because you're going, how do we talk through it beat by beat when the beats first off repeat,
Repeat.
again kind of three times over.
Yep.
You kind of just have to jump around and say things. But what this movie, because we've been a little critical of it so far, and those are our legit criticisms. That's what makes us say like it's not a great movie. I really wanted this to be a great Catherine Bigelow movie, you know,
Me too.
um, and wondered if this wouldn't be like our next like that the Oscars will be on that one. I don't know about that,
Yep.
but what it does do well with the propulsiveness is it's very easy to tap into the anxiety of what if there's a missile headed towards us.
Yeah.
Something that people think about in real life, like just what if somebody did launch one of these, presumably nuclear devices at one of our major U.S. cities, and what would that look like? And uh, this is one of those movies where I have no idea how accurate the depiction of everything is, but it felt like it would be very real. Like there's
Exactly.
nothing I saw in it that I go like, this doesn't feel very real. Um,
Yeah.
I'm sure that there are government people who would have their complaints about this movie, but um, just just everything about it, the tensions were very natural. How would people react? The way that most people reacted in this movie felt very authentic.
It did. It did. And I was kind of trying to say that at the beginning, even though it probably came across like more negative and everything. But yeah, it feels real. And she does do a great job of kind of just like I did find myself like tense during this movie. Like she does a good job of that.
Yeah, this movie, for it being a loaded cast, is not an actor and actress driven movie. Really, this is a
Hmm.
director driven, a score driven. Like
Score
what
driven.
makes this movie go is like we said, the building of the tension, which has to do with how it's cut and how it's going to be scored, and like the music that's going to accompany it, was really good score. By the way, I just
I thought so
want to throw
too.
that out there.
I agree.
Great score, great tension building, and it just sort of set the atmosphere very well. Um,
Mhm.
and again, not to take away from the cast because it's a loaded cast, but because they all have very little to actually do, each individual person.
Mhm.
Most people are just like sitting at a computer and doing their part to report the information they have, or on the phone or something. Because of that, you could exchange most of these actors or actresses pretty easily and not affect the film at all. You
I
could
I
not
was
just, yeah, I was gonna say
I
you could not
wondered
just
watching
change
this
director
movie.
and the composer the same way.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I wondered watching this movie, like, could this movie have worked with just unknown actors? And I think it could have.
Yeah, it could have. In
Yeah,
fact, I think sometimes the known actors were the most distracted part of the movie, and not
agreed.
necessarily that's not necessarily what you're saying with Idris Elba, but some ways probably. Um,
Yeah,
Jared Harris playing the one like whatever he was in the movie. He's the guy whose daughter lives in Chicago, and so he is distraught about that. That was one really surprising moment in the movie that I actually missed because I looked down at my phone. Uh, I don't
and
even remember why, but I looked down at my phone for some reason because I was like, "Oh, they're just walking up to a helicopter." And my brother goes, "Did you just see that?" And I go, "See what? Sorry." And then he started giving me
see,
a hard time for
what
looking at my
happened?
phone like he should have. And I was like, he had been on his phone like the whole movie. And of course, when I looked down one time, I missed
Something
something
major
important.
happens.
He's like, "You got to rewind. You got to see this." And I hit rewind, and I'm like, you kind of see it going rewind. You're like, "What? They walked to a helicopter. What did I miss?" And then when I play it, and he just keeps walking and goes right over the edge, and then it cuts away. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I did not
Yeah,
see that coming.
and I don't. This, like we say out here a lot of times, I don't want to be like this movie sucks and I hated it because that's not what I'm saying at all. That was really well done. That was really well done. And I do want to back up for just a second. Like you're saying, like whether this could have been unknown actors or not. I will say when they do have to deliver, like Rebecca Ferguson does a really good job when she's calling
Yeah,
her husband and like she has to be just so mad, like get in the car and drive, like head west or whatever she says. Like they pull that stuff off well. So I'm not saying like, oh man, you should have just gotten rid of Rebecca Ferguson or whatever. Like she does a good job when she has to do that stuff.
yeah. You're right. I probably am not giving the actors enough credit for the fact that I could say it's easier for them because they have so little to do, but the flip side of that is like you've got to make very like basic things hit with some punch, and bad actors
Hmm.
probably struggle to do that.
Yeah,
So you're right, like
that's
those little
fair.
phone calls, those little moments. Yeah,
They have to be powerful.
right. Uh, you know, and just there's so many great little moments in situations like this. Like it's always great when you have those moments of who the designated survivors are or not, and somebody comes to collect someone, and everybody else is kind of like you could tell they're like mad or annoyed that that's the person who gets to get saved and I don't,
Yep,
and
that
just the
stuff
human
works.
emotions that come from that. Yeah, it's always good stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah. Uh, if there's one other complaint that I would have, and actually I say complaint because I like the fact that the movie doesn't over explain, is it jumps around a lot with characters, particularly characters being in different places, and it doesn't hold your hand on, hey, you're here now or you're over here. There were numerous times, again, I was watching my brother, and like the way that people were reacting, uh, like Rebecca Ferguson and her husband, calling him and saying, "Hey, just get in the car and drive." My brother goes, "Are they in Chicago?" And I was like, "No, they're in DC." But I guess it's just the idea that if they're attacking Chicago, DC could be next, and so get out of town. But
Yeah.
you kind of just have to like track who are these characters and where are they and why are they reacting the way they are.
Yeah, and again, to keep comparing, Zero Dark 30 has some of those same qualities. This movie gave me reminded me a lot of seeing the movie Syriana with like Matt
Mm,
Damon and George Clooney, the one that Clooney won the Best Supporting Actor for. That was the
yeah,
same type of deal where it was like this feels like a very prestige, very important movie, but there was a lot of times where I was like, okay, wait, where are we at now? And it gave me a lot of those similar type of vibes.
yeah. Uh, One other movie that I thought of a lot while watching this movie is the movie September 5th that came out last year. Um, Mostly because
Hmm.
September 5th
Yep.
was the same way of like a lot of people in a room, tense situation, trying to figure out what to do.
Yep.
Obviously, the big difference with this movie and September 5th is that September 5th is based on a real story, and this one is an entirely fictionalized version of
Hmm.
events.
Yeah. Yep. Gave me the same
But
feeling too.
yeah, but I did like September 5th. And again, I always love movies of just like smart people doing smart things. And this is a movie of smart people, but just kind of smart people who can't do anything really at this point. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
sort of the anxiety of this movie is they're trying to figure out what to do and how to respond and all of that. And they're like as impressive as everything is, as fast as they can figure out information, which is incredible. All the information
Hmm.
doesn't change the fact that this thing's about to happen.
Yeah, and and again, like, because I'm not entirely negative about this movie, that stuff works really well.
Yeah. All right, we got to talk about the big thing I think for this movie, Andy. And since we gave the spoiler warning
It
a
has
while
to be
ago,
talked
we got to
about.
talk about how this movie ends because this movie, after resetting
Yeah.
twice at the missile's about to hit, we go through the third act, and when the missile's about to hit at that point, and by the way, they've hinted at this whole movie that like nothing could happen. Like that happens all the time. These things just don't go off like they're supposed to. So even though we weren't able to stop it, we don't know. Anyway, so it's like it's gonna hit, and we just get like cut to black, like the movie's over,
Hmm.
and
It is.
that is a choice. It is definitely a strong choice. What did you think about it?
So I've seen some pretty big reactions to it online and stuff. It honestly, like, I think it's natural no matter who you are or what you think about the movie. It's natural to feel a little frustration of like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, we don't get to see kind of the thing that this whole movie is building for. So I had that initial like, oh brother. But then the more I thought about it, it really didn't bother me that much, honestly, because I think the movie is not supposed to be about what happens. The movie is supposed to be about people reacting, like you said, not being able to react fast enough or not actually knowing what to do. The movie is about that. Now, whether it was a good choice or not, I don't know because, like I said, you're almost just it's like you're really poking the bear to end your movie that way. It just seems like it's just almost natural for people to react and be frustrated. So I don't know if it's what I would have done. It didn't. It. I don't have near as strong of a negative reaction as I've seen a lot of people having online.
Yeah. I mentioned earlier I watched this movie with my brother, and I knew as soon as it ended and it didn't show, he was annoyed. He
He was
needs closure.
furious.
He needs, yeah, he's like, you can't do that. You can't just end. You've got to show me what happens. And I was immediately
Hmm.
calm. And I think in large part, it probably helped me to be with him because his overreaction allowed me to like calmly take the counter. And I was like, I think that's actually the way
Sure.
they had to end it. I think if you end it any other way, if you show what happens, you're going to alienate some section of your audience, anyways. Like if you show the bomb going off and it ends with Chicago getting vaporized, then you're going to have a whole section of people that go, like, I just watched this whole movie just to watch this downer of an ending and all the scrambling
Hmm.
and nothing, like just to watch the bad guys win, I guess. Or if it hits and nothing happens, then people go, like, so I just
Like
watched all
what a
that tension
cheat. Like
building and what a cheat. Yeah. Like you kind of just had to end it and say, like, hey people, assume whatever you want, to
yeah,
have your satisfactory conclusion to this movie because like you said very well, the point was the build up to it. The point was never
yeah.
about, what
The
happens when it
payoff.
when it hits exactly.
Yeah.
So I
So
I was okay with it.
I was too. I wasn't overly bothered by it.
Yeah. I am crazy curious though what like I have not looked at a lot of other people's reactions, so that's something I'll probably do in the future. I tend to try to like to avoid that stuff until we've done our pod so I don't feel influenced
Yeah,
by it. But
fair
and
enough.
that's another thing that I would like, in the conversation I might have with friends in the future is, hey, what did
What
you
did
think
you
about
think
that?
about the ending?
Yeah,
Yep.
what do you like to imagine happen? Not that anybody's gonna say I like to imagine that the bomb goes off and Chicago gets blown
No.
up, but you know, I think there is an element of people who would be like, yeah, I think that's what the movie was building to, and so that's how I imagine the movie cut, so we didn't have to see that because it's such a bummer,
Hmm.
but that's what we were supposed to assume. I'm such an optimist. I'm like, I like to assume that the bomb hit, nothing went off. Like I like to,
Everything worked out fine.
right? Like everybody felt the tension. We go, we wipe our brows, we de-escalate the world situation, and then it inspires us to come up with better countermeasures in the future. Like it's just
Yeah.
proves to be a real positive, net positive overall. I don't know.
Yeah, I think yeah, the best perspective is just like we're both saying. Just that's the conclusion, or whether this missile goes off or not, is just really not what the movie is about.
Yeah. Uh, and this movie can get you thinking about really really dour things, which I don't even mean it to be so dour, but that emotional punch of like the Jared Harris character who ends up walking off of the building on the helicopter pad
Hmm.
because he knows like my daughter's in Chicago and it's about to get hit and there's nothing I can do about it and I can't stand the idea that my daughter's about to get hit by this missile. But he has a
So I'd
conversation
rather
with her on
just.
the phone. Yeah, he has a
Hmm.
conversation with her phone and she finds out she's got this boyfriend and it's kind of serious and he's like very sweetly he's like that's great. I'm so glad to hear it. Like just that she's got things going well and
Yeah.
this she's in a good place in her last day on earth basically, and he doesn't say anything because like what's the point of saying anything, and it just kind of raises the question like what would you say to your loved one if you're on the phone and a missile's coming to where they live, and would you say anything about it? They can't help it anyway, so you probably wouldn't. You just try to have a nice conversation, say I love you, and that's it.
And that stuff is really good, and I'm glad that movies like this do exist. Look, as much as like I love when Predator Badlands and stuff comes out. There's definitely a place in the world for movies that do, like you said, make you think, and it makes you ask the question like, what would I do in this type of situation and stuff. So there's a place for movies like this and movies like Catherine Bigelow makes.
Absolutely. I said earlier that, I was hoping this would be the kind of movie that would come along and like really be an awesome movie that I loved, that I would throw in a regular rotation, that the Oscars would appreciate. I don't know that this is going to be a movie that gets a lot of Oscar attention, but I could see it getting more of the technical stuff. I could see Bigelow even
Hmm.
getting a Best Director nod, editing for sure, score possibility. That's about it. I don't know that I would go any acting or even Best Picture, but again, it's the Oscars and they'll probably fill it with 10 nominations and I don't know what those are going to be right now.
I don't
So, who
either,
knows?
but I just don't see this making any kind of big impact at the Oscars. I could very well be wrong because the Oscars are unpredictable. Um, but like you were saying, kind of your hope going into a movie like this is like, oh, this is really painting a very clear picture for the Oscars. But I don't think it does.
I don't think it does either. And, if we judge by critic scores on Rotten Tomatoes, again, critics aren't necessarily the ones voting at the Oscars, but um,
They kind of line up sometimes.
but typically, if a movie's critically not very high, probably a good sign the Oscars aren't going to love them. It's a 76% from critics, which feels low for this type of movie. Sometimes
It does.
we'll say with like comedies or horror movies when they get a 76, we're like that's actually pretty good for that type of movie because critics are usually hard on them. Movies like this, critics are usually pretty like high on
High
them,
on.
and so that
Yep.
feels like a low score.
Yeah, it's just not quite landing. I don't think the way they hoped it would.
Yeah. Audiences for this is 78%. Again, I think that's about where I would expect it.
I would say so too. And who cares what the budget is? Because we'll never know what kind of box office it would have.
Yes,
Because
that was my next thing.
that's
$50
so
million
frustrating.
budget. And this is one of those movies where I would have had no idea what the budget would be like. It feels like a no expenses type spared type movie, like they spent what they had to, but also because it's mostly people sitting around in rooms. It's like, how much
Hmm.
did they have to spend? A lot of locations, I guess, a lot of actors. That's probably
Hmm.
where all the money goes.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
yeah,
and sadly, in this world we live in of way too expensive movies, 50 million feels pretty small for a
it,
budget. So
yeah,
I'm on the side of movies need to become less expensive. So like I was happy to hear the $50 million budget, but like I said, unfortunately, it kind of means nothing because it's just a Netflix movie. So
exactly.
what's it matter?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's disappointing.
it
Uh,
is.
I will say, not that I always have like my pulse on the zeitgeist, of who's talking about movies, but it doesn't feel like a movie that I've seen a lot, you know, of discussion about. My algorithm on social media is a lot of movie stuff, so a lot of times when a movie's getting a lot of talk, it pops up, and I've not seen a lot of House of Dynamite conversation.
Same. Neither am I. Not at all.
Yeah, I don't know. Uh,
I will say this. I want to say something positive. I hope that Bigelow doesn't wait so long to direct another movie because she is a
yeah,
very interesting director.
yeah, I agree. Really
I'm,
like
I,
Bigelow, so
yeah, I'd like to see her come out with another. Because what's it been like 7 or 8 years? I think maybe something like that. Like I would like to see her come out with something. Listen,
yeah.
she directed Point Break. Like she doesn't always do these ultra serious movies like Zero Dark 30 and this. Like she did Point Break in the early 90s, which is one of the most ridiculous, just over the top fun action movies of all time. So I wouldn't mind to see her go back to something like that, something a little lighter.
Well, I did look it up. It has been exactly 7 years since
Okay.
she directed a movie. So,
Hope she
uh,
doesn't wait that long again.
or actually, I guess 8 years. Detroit was in 2017. Was her last movie to
Okay.
direct. Andy, I'm going to wrap it up here because I keep having these technical difficulties with my audio, and right now I can see I've
That's
lost
fine.
the
We've
headphones.
said about all we need to say.
Probably getting really weird feedback now from the microphone because I'm not using the headphones. But
It's
yeah,
all
I
right.
think we were at that point anyways. So. Uh,
Yep.
that will conclude our discussion of House of Dynamite. We will be back again soon, though. We're going to talk about another new Netflix movie, another one that came out and kind of surprised me that it was already released, and that is Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. And
Yeah.
so,
Looking forward to watching it and discussing it.
absolutely. In the meantime, we hope you guys will um, get to the theaters, watch some movies, watch Predator Badlands, see some of the other stuff that's out there, and let us know what you think about these movies. And we'll see you guys next time.
See you soon.